Hi, in this video I'm going to go through a few different types of storage devices and talk about different technologies involved in storage. So, first of all, storage devices are used to save files permanently. I mean, that's not permanent, of course you can delete files, but they're not just held temporarily, they're held longer term is the key idea. So your storage will be where most of your pictures, videos, Word documents, program files, etc. are held more permanently. And we say that because memory, as we'll look at, is not held permanently, it's more temporary. So storage is for things longer term. Now, some storage devices are internal. What that means is they are held inside the computer case, usually. This picture is of an M2 drive, which is a type of solid state storage. Anything inside a computer is internal, but you can have external devices, which are outside. Usually these are portable, where you are able to take it out really easily and move it around, connect it to different devices, as in the case of this external hard drive. And most portable devices will be removable. What that means is you are able to safely remove it when the computer is running. So to give another example, this is a USB flash memory drive. You can take it out without damaging it, especially if you remove it safely. It won't cause issues. Okay, so you can categorize storage devices with these three words. Usually portable devices are removable, but not always. An internal device like a permanent hard drive would not be removable because you can take it out when the computer is running. Another way to categorize storage devices are how they transfer data, and in particular the ports being used. So a port is your connector, and there are three I want to cover here. So the first one is SCSI, often pronounced as SCSI. So SCSI stands for Small Computer System Interface. That tells you next to nothing, not a very useful acronym to be honest. There's not a lot to say about SCSI. It's a very old-fashioned connector nowadays, but a fairly modern one is based on the old SCSI design. So SAS or SAS stands for Serial Attached SCSI. So it's like a modern version of SCSI. That's what SAS is. So SAS is used in very powerful computers, such as servers. So quite possibly you've never ever used a SAS hard drive, yourself at least. More likely you've used a SATA hard drive. So SATA stands for Serial AT Attachment. I don't think these acronyms are particularly useful to remember, to be quite honest, but what is important to remember is SATA is used in most desktop computers. So your laptop, if you've got a hard drive, your desktop computer, if you've got a hard drive, will likely be SATA and not SAS, because SATA is much less expensive, but is much less high performing. So you don't need to know, in detail about the difference between the two. I guess in summary, SAS is able to both send and receive data at the same time, whereas SATA has to send and receive data at separate times. So that's one difference. SAS is much quicker in that regard, but costs a lot more money. So unless you've got a really powerful server, usually your storage device will use SATA and not SAS. There are other smaller differences too. So for example, because SAS uses a much higher voltage, you are able to have much longer cables, which would be helpful in a data center, but in your computer, having a really long cable is actually not a good thing at all. So there are other factors, but just learn SATA is fairly cheap, but low performing. SAS is the opposite. So it's generally not used in standard desktop computers. Now to go through another few categories of storage which are more based on how the device works, and we've got to be able to evaluate each one to a certain extent too. So first of all, hard drive. A hard drive, often shortened to HDD, hard disk drive, uses magnetic disks which spin. So here is a picture of the case top being removed from a hard drive. Inside the hard drive is a spinning disk with a read-write head. It spins usually about 7,000 times a minute. It spins really fast, and the read-write head is able to detect changes in the magnetism on the disk's surface. So the binary is represented depending on the polarity of the disk. Now, that's not hugely important. What is important to realize is the hard drives are generally quite cheap per gigabyte, so cheaper than other devices, and are generally reliable. They will tend to fail after a certain few years. Reliable is about how consistent the device is. They are quite reliable, but because it's got a few moving parts. The disk is spinning, the read-write head is moving up and down. Because it's moving, that generally means it's not particularly durable. So durability is how easily the device can withstand damage. So it's not very durable. You couldn't drop it, you couldn't really shake it. It would damage quite easily because so much is moving inside it. So these are generally quite fragile. In comparison, slightly more modern technology are solid state drives, shortened to SSDs. So an SSD uses just electronic circuits to store the data. So inside the SSD, if you took the case off or if you chopped it in half, you wouldn't see very much. It's just circuitry. There are no moving parts. That's really important. Now, these are generally more expensive than hard drives, but actually they're faster. So reading and writing data is faster on an SSD than it is as compared to a hard drive. And because nothing's moving, really, they are more durable. You could drop it and it wouldn't really have much effect. Now, there is a similar type of storage connected to SSDs. So many, not all, but many SSDs use a technology called flash memory or flash storage. So that flash storage is just a way to use circuits to store data. Not important you know exactly how flash storage works, but SSDs usually follow flash storage. There are other non-SSD flash storage technologies. So for example, an SD card is flash memory, but is not solid state per se. Likewise, a memory stick is flash memory, but isn't an SSD. They're often used in portable storage because of it being durable. They don't get damaged nearly as easily as a hard drive would. And the final type of storage I want to talk about is a bit of an outlier because it's not a physical storage device, it's more of a concept, and that is cloud storage. So cloud storage is where you are accessing your files via the internet, which are held in an off-site location. So what that means is you've got to use the internet to access your files, maybe through an app, maybe through a website, and your actual data is not held near you, it's held in some other location away from you. So often in a big data center with loads of servers which hold your files, and the internet is how they are sent to you and how you send files to it. Examples of things like OneDrive, iCloud, Google Drive, etc., etc. So in terms of evaluating cloud storage, well, cloud storage is very scalable. Now, scalable means it's very easy to increase the amount of storage. Because a crazy amount of storage is held in these data centers, you are able to very easily buy more storage. You just pay some more every month and you get access to more storage. In your own computer, you might run out of storage quite quickly, and to add more storage, you might have to add in another hard drive or use an external hard drive. It's not quite as easy on your own computer to add more storage, but cloud storage, because it's such a big pool of storage, you can increase your own use very easily. And also, because it's held somewhere else, you can really access it from anywhere. You can travel around and access it, but you must have internet. So if you have no internet, you can't access your files, unfortunately. And a final point, which could be an issue, could not be an issue, depends on the context. So this is a really good point for a discussion question. You are very reliant on their security and them keeping your data online. Of course, the company could have amazing security and your data might be kept really safe, but equally, their security could be really bad and they could have a cyber attack, which means your data might get lost or stolen. If it's not cloud storage, if it's local storage, you've got lots of control, but you don't have much control when it is cloud storage. Equally, in terms of keeping it online, if they have an outage, if they have a fire or a flood or stuff gets damaged, your files might get lost, it might go down temporarily or even permanently. So you are reliant, you are trusting the cloud provider to keep things safe and keep things online.